Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up later on the show, we'll tour the Forest History Center in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. But first, Matt O'Lean had a chance to sit down with the Executive Director of the Northern Plains Sustainable Agriculture Society.
And I am here with my guest, Ed Gerger. And Ed, before we get started, tell folks a bit about yourself, where you're from, your background, and how you got into farming.
Thank you, Matt. I'm from the Wyoming, North Dakota area. I grew up there on a family farm, attended NDSU in ag economics, went back to the farm, farmed conventionally there for quite a few years. We switched over to organic production in about '97, did that through 2003, and then I phased out of crop production, and I've been doing livestock-based production since then and marketing direct, and evolved other things from there.
Okay. What is the Northern Plains Sustainable Agriculture Society?
Well, while I was farming organically, I joined the Northern Plains Sustainable Ag Society and ended up being on the board of directors, and recently became an executive director there. And what the Northern Plains Sustainable Ag Society is a 37-year organization where we have been working with organic farmers to communicate different research and educational needs initially amongst ourselves. And now we actually are doing research in several states, and we use that research to communicate to our growers of better techniques, different crops that are emerging from there.
Are you seeing more farmers go organic? What are your numbers like, Ed?
I would say the numbers are steady recently. There was a big increase around the year 1999 to 2000. Then there was a large decrease around the year 2008 to 2010. I would contribute that a lot to the high price of conventional commodities. And when it was so easy just to make a profit conventionally, the extra work of organic seemed to be less appealing, so farmers let their land go back to conventional.
And what is the primary differences, Ed, between what you promote and let's call them established farming methods that farmers have been doing?
Traditional modern techniques, the differences. Well, when you're an organic farmer, you have a long-range plan of how to prevent things from happening, whether it be for diseases or for weeds or for fertility, that you know what you do 2 years from now will affect the crop you'll be raising. So we do a lot more planning, a lot more crop rotation planning to build soil health, soil structure, whereas a conventional farmer has the ability to use a petroleum-based product to adjust his soils to the needs of that crop at that year.
Okay. And what does that do to the land? I mean, what is your basic understanding of the way you farm versus, the guy down the road with chemicals?
Sure. I guess what we really promote is the difference of soil health. And with the soil health, you have a lot more microbes active and being energized in your soil. When you have the different rotations and the different crops, you feed different microbes all the time, and so you have a large diversity of things. Plus, we have seen through studies in different states, the Rodale Institute and out east, that actually in drought years, organic will outproduce conventional just because of the water holding capacity has been increased due to the microorganisms and activity in the soil. That'd be the primary difference that I'd see right now.
Is USDA, Ed, trying to promote organic farming? What sense do you get from Washington on this?
I'm sure
you've been out there and yeah.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, and there is a part of the Farm Bill that does promote sustainable and organic farming. There is some funding to help convert your farm, at least paying the certifying fees. There is that aspect of it, the conservation aspect, but it really pales in comparison to what they promote or is available to the conventional or modern farmer, whether it be because their crop insurance program protects them at a certain level. We have to pay an additional amount because it is a more risky compared to conventional farming, and we're not protected from as many things because obviously pollen drift is an issue when you come to certain crops. We cannot be protected from that from people having conventional crops contaminate ours. So we're protected, but it's not the same kind of promotion.
So when you're talking to a farmer who wants to join your organization, wants to convert, it's a big step, isn't it? I mean, they're giving up profits, aren't they? So or are they initially?
Yeah, well, the transition years are always going to be the hardest, and so there is ways to soften the economic blow. And actually, if you do it in times like this when commodity prices are low, the economic burden isn't as high because you're already losing money conventionally. So with that being said, there are ways to transition that cost you less. And I'm sorry, what was the real whole question?
Just the cost factor. You are giving up profits initially, right?
But on the other side of that is that the demand is not being met nationwide as of yet. And it continues to grow at 20% per year for the last, since I got involved in '97, it's been growing 20% a year. And so now we've been dependent on bringing crops in or product in from overseas. And some of that, while it says certified organic, but not, it's certified, but it's not verified. So that gets to be a concern when it goes to the public, and we're worried about our brand, let's say, of organic being tarnished because of that. So that is a concern. Thus, we're trying to get growers to be interested in this, and we're willing to work with them to expand that. Actually, I have a lot of people calling me to try and get more acres because there's a big demand for this stuff.
In reading your newsletter, there was some talk in there about the generational divide. There seems to be, in recruiting farmers, the older farmers, not as much into organic farming. It's more of a, folks your age and younger. Do you find that?
Definitely there's more interest in, unfortunately, or that's just the way it is, that there's a lot of the people that are interested in this production do not have access to farms as those that are in conventional production and want to move to it. So you can call them, they come from, say, an urban, I don't know, hippie crowd is the right terminology, but that's what they've been viewed 20 years ago. Yeah. And so they're looking to get back to the roots. There's a lot of people that would just love to have the opportunity to have 150 acres and have a small herd of cattle, have a small herd of sheep, have a flock of chickens, and produce food in a sustainable way and have that available to sell to the people in the city. And you're seeing it happen more often than not, that people at least get 30, 40 acres to do something like that. And they're able to make a living, and I admire the people that are able to do that because it is a lot of hard work, and they put a lot of dedication into it. And some people like to poo-poo it, but actually if they start taking a farm count, this is an estimate on my part, but there are more new farms coming out in that size and that kind of area than there is in the conventional farms. And I could see in 10 years from now that population-wise, if you go to the SCS to take a vote, that those farmers, if they're there at the SCFS, will have a majority vote over those that are the big operations. If you vote per farmer, if you vote per acre, obviously there won't be any contest.
What are the dangers of pesticides in food, Ed?
I'm not a scientist or a food scientist. I'm not going to go there. We just like to make people aware that, is that what you want to eat, and be aware of what you're eating. I will say that, there has been a lot of talk about, the genetically modified crops, genetically engineered crops, I'll say, and the use of glyphosate on them because that's what they're engineered to do. One thing about glyphosate that I didn't know when I was at NDSU attending weed science courses is that it's also now a registered antibiotic. And that being said, it kills bacteria, and our soils are full of bacteria. So the more we apply glyphosate, the more we're killing off bacteria because that's what it's designed to do. And so long term, what's going to be the effects, when we start putting those kind of products out into the environment, and they're finding it doesn't break down the way they initially said. So there's concerns about that, and I think the public just needs to have free access to full information and not be hidden from what's going on.
How many farmers in your organization that are in North Dakota and then in the upper Midwest?
I would say we have around 200 farmers in North Dakota, and we probably have 300 plus in 17 other states. So we're also in 3 countries, including the U.S. So we have quite a wide footprint that way. And like I mentioned, our research, we have research not only in North Dakota, but in Montana, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin, and with winter nurseries in Puerto Rico and in Chile.
Okay. Can you talk about maybe some real success stories, individuals in your organization that come to mind?
Well, success is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, but I know of operations where there's there's an operation by Comstock, North Dakota, a couple of them, and they do very well, very successful, and they've been able to grow their operations and do a wonderful job that the common person driving by would not know that it's an organic farm.
Right.
I have the same kind of operation I can talk to about by Madison, South Dakota. I drive by their farm, and their yields are slightly under what the commercial guys would be because they can't quite put the same fertility to it. But their profitability is not even comparable. Their profitability is probably 10 times a conventional guy, just because they have the good yields and they're getting paid much better than the conventional guys now. And they have their costs under control because they don't export their dollars out to keep bringing inputs in. They are more regenerative from the inside their farm and self-reliant.
In the future, Ed, is the aging farmer population a concern?
It is a concern, and actually we're looking at starting a program to help match up farmers that are interested in bringing in these couples I was talking about that would love to have an opportunity to be on a farm. Maybe not do your whole acreage, but maybe if you could have, a farmstead, because a lot of older couples that are leaving the farmstead, their children are off on either coast or New Denver or something, and they don't plan on coming back. But yet a couple would be able to utilize that and have a start at life. And we believe and we've heard that there are couples that are out there that would be willing to give them a break, and they don't need all the property to go to this kind of individual, but if they can give them a break on a certain part of it, they're looking to do that. And so we're actually looking to set up something this winter to help the communication get going better.
And tell me about you have a winter conference coming up
We
in
do.
January. Where is that? What's going to happen there?
This year the winter conference is in Aberdeen yet. We're looking hopefully the next couple of years to bring it into the Fargo-Moorhead area. It's about 700 people that come to that, mostly producers, but there's also consumers that go. We have several keynote and over 50 some workshops that are put on over the Friday and Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's been growing 10% a year. I went to several agricultural conferences before I went to this one in the late 90s. And I went there, and I went there as I normally would as a young professional. I had my khakis on and the white polo shirt. I was ready to go. I get there, and it's blue jeans or bib overalls and flannel shirts, and everyone's your friend. And after a couple of years of attending there, not only are they my friend, but they became family. Right. And it's one of the most family-friendly conferences you can go to, besides a family conference, but because the kids are in sessions with you, and the kids will leave and they'll go play in the pool area and back and forth, and the kids eat with the parents, and we have kids programs going on. So we try and make it not only educational and informative for the public that wants to know stuff, but we also want it to be family orientated so we can grow that family feeling.
And when is that in January?
Yeah, it's the 21st through the 23rd, I believe, of January this year down in Aberdeen.
Okay. Here's a question for you. Sometimes I hear people that don't understand farming. They'll say, well, in a bad year, you get a check because of the drought, and you don't work in the winter. Tell us why farming is so difficult and why so few people go into it.
Well,
and why that's wrong, what I said, what some people say.
It's okay. I'll approach it two different ways here. One way is why do more people get into it, and it has become capital intensive, thus cost prohibitive for people to jump into farming. That unless you have a gateway to get into it, whether it be from a father or grandfather or uncle or aunt. The other side of it is it can be a hard life as far as physically challenging, but I don't think that's a barrier to as many as one would think. Because those that grow up on the farm said, "Yeah, I don't want to go out and shovel that bin again. I'm glad we have hopper bins. I'm glad I have all big round bales so I can take the tractor and grab them. I don't have square bales anymore." But I personally intentionally got a square baler so I could get some of that physical activity and get that in and be part of my life. Because I think that people need to be active in their lifestyle too and engage in it. So I don't think that while that's somewhat of a barrier, the physical work, that's not the total barrier. And as far as they get a check if it's dry or not, that all depends on the crop insurance system you're on, and whether it be flood years too. So some of the issues with the conventional guys again with the prevented plant. Because they have gotten so large, it's easy to collect prevented plant because we just can't get to it. Well, When you had more modest-sized farms, that wasn't always an issue. But I think, and especially in sustainable agriculture, we like to promote multiple crops, 4 to 5 in a farm compared to 2. And we also like to promote having livestock integrated into that, because you'll find that you'll have a more efficient system as far as fertility, weed control, and everything else. But you'll also find out that economically, you buffer yourself from highs and lows of certain commodities because you have a broad-ranging base to sell from on the different commodities.
Are you concerned about climate change and the world food supply going forward? I mean, California has all kinds of water problems and drought problems.
Right.
What do you think about that in the future?
Well, I think weather is weather, and weather changes all the time. As far as climate changing, you know, as a group, I don't know if we have a position per se, as far as, you know, we're always in favor of doing something that causes less pollution. And I'm always in favor of that too. Whether or not this certain cycle we're in is going to be a cycle that's going to be same cycle 15 years from now, I don't know. I just read an article today that they're predicting the sun's going to cool off and there'll be a mini ice age coming. So science tends to be a little bit confusing the more you read into it. That being said, was there enough food to feed the world? Yeah. I've heard it said that what we waste in America could feed, half of the poor in Africa or more than that. So I think it's not necessarily growing enough food. I think it's having the right distribution and getting rid of the political barriers that stop the distribution thereof. I don't know that necessarily we need 13, 14 billion bushels of corn, because the reason the whole ethanol industry exists is because we had excess corn in the 80s, and so those of us as farmers were active. We initiated the ethanol program to be supported by the government to get that blended into our vehicle fuel. And so that was because we didn't have enough markets for our corn. So now we have that market for our corn, so now we say we need to grow this much. It's not for food. You know, so I think food production, that's not the issue. It's, you know, do we have enough capacity to produce everything else that we've grown the market to be?
Tell me about your quarterly newsletter and how that gets produced. And
our quarterly newsletter is done by our Star Office employee, Susan Long. She's been doing it for quite a few years, and it's mainly her project. She finds the articles to put in there. We talk about different things that are going on in and around sustainable agriculture. We also talk about the research that we've been doing throughout that last 3 months and giving you an update. And we talk about events that are coming up in the summertime. We'll talk about our summer events that we have as far as in field events with our plot tours, stuff like that. This year we also had an educational series on GMOs. And then this winter, of course, we'll talk about our winter conference and upcoming events.
how does a farmer go about being a member of your organization?
It's quite simple. You can go to our website, npsas.org, and find out the best information, get a hold of us. You can sign up online, or you can call us at 701-883-4304, and we can talk to you, and we'll be glad to sign you up. It's only $65 a year to be a member, and there are a lot of benefits that can come with that.
And you can also point them, if they are interested in converting, you can get them in touch with the right people,
Absolutely.
right?
You don't have to be a member,
Right.
and we'll help give you the right information. We like to be a service, I guess, because we're a nonprofit. We like to be a service to those that are looking into these kind of things. And matter of fact, our phones have been more active than they have been the last couple of years, this last couple of months.
And where do you see farming in 10, 15 years? You think it's going to go more organic? Got about 20 seconds left.
I think that there'll be increased use of technology. I think there'll be more robotics all the time. I think that there will be a pressure to be less use of synthetic products overall.
Okay. Ed, thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Matt.
My guest has been Ed Gerger. He is the new executive director of the Northern Plains Sustainable Agriculture Society. Stay tuned for more.
The Forest History Center in Grand Rapids, Minnesota is a wonderful destination to learn about the history of Minnesota's lumber industry. At the center, visitors can climb a massive fire tower to look out over the forest, as well as experiencing historical reenactors from an old logging camp. Here's a look.
surrounded. Buzz, come quick, it's Eldon Marples. He's had a bad accident.
No, this looks bad. Oh,
Miss Kate, we need your glass to see if he's breathing.
I don't think so.
He twisted more than his ankle.
Oh, I don't have any frost or smoke on there. Oh, no.
I think he's seen his last Christmas.
The Forest History Center, probably our core experience that's best known is what you're seeing today, the greatest logging camp tour in the Northwoods, and we've been putting that on here since 1978. So it's a well-honed program, and in the summertime, people really like to come out here and enjoy that. You learn all about a 1900 logging operation, medium-sized camp that operated much like the other 300 or so did back in 1900 in the Northwoods of Minnesota. And so we tell the story of what life was like in a day in the camp, to be exact, December 15th, 1900. To boot, we also have a great visitor center with interactive exhibits. We have a 100-foot fire tower that you can climb. We have 5 miles of trails that go through the woods and along the Mississippi River. So all kinds of wildlife encounters.
Say the Sawyers have the best job in the whole camp because they get paid for the full day. They only work half the day. So while you're pulling, you're going to rest.
Lumbering made Minnesota a great state. It's a big part of Minnesota's story historically, and it's still a big part of the story today. Developing forest products here in Minnesota is still significant. In fact, today, they produce more lumber products in Minnesota than they did in 1900. In the Great Lakes region here, it was winter logging, which is different than other parts of the country. So they laid ice roads and used sleighs, did their work in the wintertime. It's called hard ground logging. We also call it the cut and run logging era. And when I say this, I'm talking about the era here in Minnesota from 1837 to say 1900, before government regulation kicked in, before the Forest Service really got going, both at the federal and state levels. So logging companies could come in and get the right to cut timber on land. They didn't have to worry about environmental issues at all. They could clear cut everything, and they didn't worry about planting new trees or anything about what may happen tomorrow. So they weren't thinking about posterity. They were thinking about making money fast right then and there. So in 1900, they produced 2.3 billion board feet of pine. Today we have many more diverse products that are produced here in Minnesota, and the forests are as productive as ever.
Where are we going to find somebody fool enough to get back up there and...
Oh, don't look at me. I'm not going up there.
Hey, there we go. This young feller looks like he needs a job.
Today, we would think it was a very harsh life. They worked from sunup to sundown. You're here in northern Minnesota where temperatures can reach minus 40 degrees. And these men worked hard. If you were a sawyer, you could plan on making 100 cuts a day, trees that were 3 to 5 feet in diameter, perhaps 120 feet tall. That's a lot of work on a misery whip. They ate great food here, but at the same time, you were sleeping in a bunkhouse with 79 other guys where lice prevailed, and you didn't get to take a bath every day.
You want those teeth to be a little bit wider than the base of the saw. So if he puts it on a tooth and it's still rocking, it needs to be filed and resharpened. Just keep all those about the same length.
The staff at the Forest History Center is really a unique crew. Mike Adams today, he played Jake. He actually has quite a Teamster background and has worked with horses all of his lives.
Well, first of all, I would like to introduce our hardest working crew in the entire Northland, and that would be Miss Jubilee and Alyssa, the horses.
And used to pack in Montana and other things like that. So they come, most of them, with multiple talents. For instance, one of our fellows is a master green woodworker. He built our sleigh down here. He's rebuilt some of the other equipment we have down here. And at the same time, he also does living history. Some of our other interpreters are master naturalists. So we're doing a lot of new programming now. We're becoming known for not just having the greatest logging camp tour in the Northwoods, but that we also put on a diverse array of other types of programming and collaborate with many other organizations to make that happen. We don't have the talent and the expertise here on our own staff. So when we invite others to use this as a great forest platform to deliver programs, and it's really worked out well. You know, when Lewis and Clark and the Corps of Discovery went across the United States, they came back and reported that resources were inexhaustible. You know, and that wasn't all that many years before 1900. By 1900, they were beginning to realize that resources were indeed exhaustible, and you had to do something about it. You had to become stewards of the land. So things had changed in 100 years in terms of perspective. And since 1900, a lot has changed again. We think much differently about forests now and have learned a lot more about them, about how to better manage them and take care of them and educate the public about them. And that's what we do here at the Forest History Center.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Post this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funding for Minnesota Legacy programs are provided by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, and by the members of Prairie Public.